Yeah, just like your rap. I like this. Edit it. I practiced it. Georgia. That's why we have to do that. It's not about answering. They're like answering it because that was a good that was an answer. I'll make the scene. What did I say on the game, bro? I said I wrote I win and you lose. Like a caboose. Nobody loves me. Your brain is like technology. My brain is like, it's your mom's brain. I just hit him with a switch. You're better. Bye, bars. Wait, Crystal, when I'm asking a question, how am I supposed to stand? Because I thought I was going to stand there, but now that that means there, I can't stand. So should I stand like?
You said you can't stand there?
This is right here. Am I going to walk like over?
I would stand like this.
But I don't want to touch this.
Oh, right.
Would I stand like this?
I think you can stand like that or like that.
Or like a so yeah,
I think
this is probably the best.
that's probably the most natural. Yeah, so that's where Chloe was standing earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know.
The whole theater thing. She did?
So, okay, if you weren't paranoid. Wait.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much.
And also a lot of people are mad because some people were right about their assumptions. Wait, what is this start though? At 10, like it's 10%. We're waiting for. Read the book? No. I think we're only gonna wait 13 episodes. I think we're why are we doing my dad's number? What is that? Our tables wait.
So just
We know you shouldn't. I just got it out. I know, I don't know why I was like, jealous now, but I like my own like I mean it's like I like language are so easy. Oh.
Sorry, Maya, did you have a question?
Welcome everyone. If you could come and take a seat. Welcome to the culmination of the first semester of Hillbrook High School. Congratulations to all the students. I was thinking a lot about when I finished my first semester of high school in 1995. I was going to a boarding school on the East Coast. And the way that I finished the semester is I went into this huge echoey gym and I sat with about 600 other people at tables right next to each other with blue books as we filled in multiple choice and long answer, and we sat for 4 hours. And then we went away, and a couple hours or a couple days later, we learned how we did. And it was a very different way that you'll see about how we're celebrating our end of the semester. At the high school and at the lower and the middle school for over 90 years, we believe learning should be deeply, deeply purposeful. It should be engaged. We want it to be community-based, and we want it to be related to things that really matter to students, to the school, and to San Jose and broader. So what you are going to see here is our exhibition of learning. Thank you so much, parents and grandparents and special friends, for coming. We will spend about 2 hours here, and you're going to witness a mock trial that is being created by our fabulous teacher, history teacher Laurel Grimes, and English teacher Crystal Matsuoka. It is a humanities integrated project where we're going to have the opportunity to hear from all of our students. After the mock trial, we will have lunch in this space. You'll get to hear a little bit from head of school, Mark Silver. And then after lunch, you'll walk over to the Adobe campus. And for some of you, you've spent some time there. And for others, you'll get to see our campus for the year as we wait for the Armory and more to be finished. And when we get over to Adobe, what you will see is students in a gallery walk where you get to go up and talk to your child or grandchild and other students and hear about their learning from the year. They have curated a portfolio of learning artifacts from the last semester that show evidence of our school-wide competencies. They'll share with you for a couple minutes. You can ask them questions. There's feedback forms so that you can share with them some things that you appreciated from what you heard. After the presentations of learning, after the gallery walk, we'll all convene together in our largest room over there, Aberdeen, and you'll get to hear some music from our music exploratory class, from our language classes, and from our choral group. And that'll culminate the day. We hope that you see students engaged and feeling proud of their work. That is what I get to see every day. So thanks again for being here, and turn it over to our humanities teachers.
Hi. Welcome everyone. Again, I'm Laurel Grimes. I'm the world history teacher.
I'm Crystal Matsuoka. I'm the English teacher.
And welcome to Hillbrook Upper School's very first mock trial, People versus Planet, wherein we put humanity on trial for their crimes against the Earth. With 3 basic assumptions involved: that climate change is real, that humans are causing it, and that we want human life to continue on this planet. It is the wacky experimental brainchild of summer collaboration between the two of us, where we said, well, neither of us has ever done a mock trial, and neither of us has ever done a model UN, so let's stick one inside the other and see what happens.
And we've only met once, so
Yeah.
it's going to work out great.
And these amazing kids ran with it and have done an incredible job with this big risk that we took. And so we're very proud of them and excited just for you to see what happens today. It is our semester 1 final humanities project, as Mike mentioned, and it's specifically targeting 2 UN sustainability goals that we've incorporated into our curriculum, specifically the one focused on climate action and then peace, justice, and strong institutions. It's also a way for students to connect with our year-long themes of culture, perspective, and environment, and to sort of answer the question, our central question of how do we and the earth affect one another.
To just add a little bit more context, we had 3 main goals for this project. One was to engage students in thinking critically about human impact on the planet from multiple perspectives. So historical, cultural, social, economic. Second is to help students examine their role as global citizens in rectifying environmental harm and injustice. And third, a chance for them to apply their learning, apply their skills and concepts that they have learned from history and English in a real world context, such as a trial. We have seen the kids work super hard over the last couple of weeks, researching, collaborating, coordinating, writing, and we're so excited to bring you this mock trial event today, and you get to see the fruits of their labor. So without further ado, here we go.
All rise for the Honorable Judge.
Please be seated. The jury and reporters will now introduce themselves.
I'm Millie, and I'm representing the country of Honduras. I'm Rebecca, and I'm representing the country of Greenland.
I'm Mitch, and I'm representing the country of Argentina.
I'm Paige, and I'm representing the country of Australia.
I am Carla, I'm representing the DR.
I am Jakob. I am representing the country of Russia.
I'm Anisha, and I'm representing the country of India.
I'm Kashi, and I'm representing the country of Ecuador.
I'm Finn, and I'm representing the Netherlands. And I'm representing the country of China.
I'm Esther, I'm representing Indonesia. I'm Sophia, I'm representing Greece.
I am Kipperton. I am from Channel 1000 News.
I'm Jackson, I'm from Channel 1000 News.
We will now commence the trial, charging humanity for crimes against the earth.
Your Honor, members of the jury, our names are Kyle Chang, Ren Silver, and Maya Rubin. We are representing the prosecution team in this case. Human societies throughout history have been apathetic towards the damage they are causing Earth and themselves for their personal gain. We are charging humans for degradation of resources and ignoring science. Our goal here today is to bring humanity to justice for its crimes against the Earth. Humans have harmed the Earth for centuries, yet many of them refuse to do anything about it. Ever since the Industrial Revolution in the 1700s, human activity has increased the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by 50%, causing the average global temperature to increase by approximately 1 degree Celsius or 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit, according to NASA. Since 1896, we have known the effects of carbon dioxide on the atmosphere and the greenhouse gas effect. But we have ignored the problem for a century, and many of us are still ignoring it, along with many other critical problems. Yet we still utilize and support industries that destroy the environment and its habitat. We clearly know how badly our habits have affected the Earth and its ecosystems. Another major issue is the impact of plastic on the environment, and yet we still use single-use plastics and then immediately throw them away. Human beings have had numerous chances to change, and we barely have. Whether we like it or not, almost every human activity has made climate change worse. We forced animals to suffer because of our mistakes and our refusal to fix them. Polar bears are starving due to melting ice caps. In Australia, countless koalas died in a wildfire in 2009. Beautiful coral reefs are disappearing. Penguins, seals, and iguanas are starving to death because of terrible storms. All of this is happening because of us and will continue on if we don't change. While companies and industries like ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Coca-Cola, to name a few, are responsible for a large portion of climate change, every one of us has played a role in the harm on the environment. On average, each US American emits 16 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere through mostly travel and energy. 16 tons of carbon dioxide per year. We have the ability to change our ways, but we lack the effort. Because of our complacency, animals are dying, ecosystems are dying, the earth is dying, people are dying. This planet is our only home, yet we're treating it like it's a piece of junk. Just another resource for us to use up. Not only that, we share this planet with tens of billions of animals who are suffering because of us. Everybody has a responsibility to the earth to stop and undo the damage we've caused, a responsibility we're avoiding simply because it's easier to do so. Stand with us and hold humanity accountable for the damage we're causing, or you can watch as we destroy our only home and the creatures that inhabit it. Thank you.
I am Vivian Hollenbeck, and we believe humanity should not be universally condemned for crimes against the earth, particularly resource depletion and the denial of scientific facts. While climate catastrophes may serve as self-punishment for industrialization, our actions still better human society as a whole, and are not only for individual gain. Although greenhouse gas production has increased after the Industrial Revolution, humanity now dramatically benefits from the innovation in technology, communication, transportation, and energy sources developed in the mid-18th century to the mid-19th century. Subsequent technological advancements enable us to address climate change while simultaneously enhancing overall human well-being. Industries like healthcare and automobile manufacturing expand the prosperity of society, even when they affect the climate. Additionally, you must take into consideration the uneven contribution of carbon emissions across nations. The U.S. is producing 6,017.44 million metric tons of carbon equivalent, whereas Bhutan is carbon neutral. Furthermore, countries with negative impacts still strive to reduce emissions, demonstrating activism and concern rather than passivity and apathy. We will demonstrate that humans are innovating to improve the earth with CRISPR technology that addresses hunger due to climate change, and DAX technology that reduces carbon in the atmosphere. Importantly, industries contribute to the world even when they reduce carbon. The benefits outweigh the automobile industry is a great representation. Car emissions may make up 30% of the United States' total carbon emissions, but since the invention of cars in the 19th century, there has been growth in personal freedom and access to jobs. During the Great Migration from 1916 to 1945, 2 million African Americans fled the South for greater economic opportunity in the North. After experiencing centuries of chattel slavery, buying a car gives families freedom and economic mobility into the middle class. Also, although the medical industry produces 4.4% of the world's carbon emissions, it is also responsible for life-saving procedures. Next, we will argue that countries are diligently curbing the effects of human activities on the planet. An example is Portugal, a country that is doing everything in their power to reduce their carbon footprint. Portugal has been moving to hydroelectric power, and during heavy storms off the Iberian coast, Portugal has been moving. In addition, Portugal was the first to announce carbon neutrality by 2050. Another country taking dramatic action is Iceland, who is planning on carbon neutrality by 2040. Iceland is able to achieve this ambitious goal because of their carbon capture program called Orca that collects carbon from the atmosphere. Moreover, some countries are completely carbon neutral. Bhutan has set net zero emissions and is continuing to decrease the carbon they release into the world. How can Bhutan be punished for crimes that are not even committed? When natural disasters occur, charging humanity with these crimes sets back important climate work. The advantages of our industries far outpace the effects of their emissions. Furthermore, please consider that not all countries are completely at fault. Some nations producing high amounts of greenhouse gases are improving quality of life. For instance, during U.S. President Johnson's administration from 1963 to 1968, almost 300 pieces of legislation that conserve the earth were signed into law, including the Wilderness Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Clean Air Act. Other nations do not significantly contribute to climate change, and still, more are collaborating to do good for the environment. Humanity cannot be punished for something they are collectively preventing with science. Thank you.
The prosecution now called the Galapagos to the stand. You may share your testimony.
My name is Hank Paddleford, climate scientist extraordinaire, and I have been researching the Galapagos Island for quite some time, which has allowed me to witness the beauty of it, but also how it has changed for the worse. Among many, including shrinking iguanas, blackberries blocking forest growth, and native insects being eaten by frogs, penguins and tortoises of the island are immensely affected. Why is this happening? The Galapagos undergoes an event, typically around every 7 years, called El Nino. However, thanks to climate change, the events have been exacerbated. Since 2000, there have been 8 El Nino events, meaning an average of one every 3 years. El Nino is caused by warm trade winds weakening and being pushed back towards the west coast of the Americas. These patterns cause storms, heat the oceans, and lower air pressure. During normal conditions, nutrient-rich, deep ocean water is brought to the surface, feeding fish. However, during El Nino, because of the wind and atmospheric changes, the warm water is pushed east across the equator, pushing the nutrient-rich cold water deep as 150 meters. This causes mass starvation and is responsible for the shrinking iguanas and seabirds stop laying, killing off nearly every inhabitant of the island. Penguins especially struggle because they cannot migrate. Coasts of the island facing east are hit worse, so animals travel to the other. Penguins, on the other hand, have difficulty doing so and end up being larger victims. In 1948, the island suffered a particularly violent El Nino, killing more than half of the penguin population. Since then, the birds have never recovered and in fact have still lowered to below 2,000. The Galapagos tortoises, in addition, if they do not get enough food, will not breed. On the collective islands, there are 13 different species of tortoise alone, and only 15,000 of them compared to the 250,000 that there used to be. In 2012, one particular tortoise called Lonesome George died, marking the end of the Pinta Island tortoise species. These reptiles were hunted for food and oil by whalers, pilots, and traders in the 17th and to 19th centuries, with an estimated of 1 to 200,000 killed in total. They continue to face competition with human-brought animals that aren't native, including feral dogs, pigs, rats, goats, donkeys, and cats feeding on their eggs and young, and red or fire ants killing them. Penguins are also threatened by disease from these animals. The Galapagos are in crisis.
Okay, and now the Galapagos are a very popular place for people to go, mostly to see its sights. How does the amount of tourists each year impact the ecosystem?
Tourism is the biggest economy in the Galapagos, and it's ever growing. When the national park system was set up in 1968, the visitor cap was set at 12,000. The limit was raised to 25,000. Too many guests in the 80s, and in 2015, the visitor number is 10 times higher than it was 30 years ago. When tourists visit the island, they can either take a cruise ship or stay in a hotel. Both harm the ecosystem. Old or poorly maintained cruise ships litter the sea with chipped paint and engine oils. Hotels have continued to lower their price to combat the popularity of cruise ships, making them much more popular and in higher demand, meaning habitats are cleared to build more.
Thank you.
will now cross-examine. In a recent article published by The Atlantic, they speak on the recent positive conservation initiatives that benefit the Galapagos. On islands such as Española, the endangered Galapagos giant tortoise, once reduced to a population of 20, now flourish on this island due to the positive conservation efforts being implemented. I'm curious, would you consider the implementation of these new conservation policies to be representative of the prosecution's claim that humanity is degrading all natural resources?
I believe that humanity is still degrading the natural resources because although there is a lot of work, as you were talking about, being done, the overall trend has been downward. Galapagos penguins are still going extinct. Galapagos tortoise species are still going extinct, and what you have talked about is not changing that.
Yeah. But the prosecution's claim is that humanity is like the degradation of resources is happening everywhere. Is this a specific example of the degradation of natural resources? Or is there positive efforts being done?
Yes, however, actions being taken by these people are still negatively impacting the tortoises regardless of the positive changes being made.
Thank you.
The prosecution now call koalas in Nigeria up to the stand.
We will be representing Calvin and Sloan, who are talking about, koalas in Nigeria. So, my name is Dr. Zubairu, and I am a dedicated climate science professor at Covenant University in Nigeria. And today I want to tell you about how the actions of big companies such as Shell Oil, along with the widespread issue of global climate change, have adversely affected Nigeria. In 1936, long before my time, Shell Oil, a Dutch oil company, began its operations in Nigeria. The oil company initially brought some economic growth, but it came at a substantial and troubling cost. The land and air suffered immensely, especially after the significant disastrous 1970 oil spill in the Niger Delta. It was a massive disaster, polluting our environment. The oil spill desolated the local land for agriculture and polluted the water. Similarly, minor spills have been frequent, consistently harming farms and nature. It took an exhausting 30 years of legal struggle before Shell was finally able to pay $110 million to farmers, but quite often they managed to get away without facing any substantial consequences. Many have responded to the harm done by Shell to Nigeria. However, said response to protest against these injustices was incredibly severe. In 2003, 9 brave protesters who stood firmly against Shell's harmful environmental practices were executed by the government. It is an incredibly dark moment in our history and shows the extreme risks faced by those who courageously speak up. Climate change, also significantly caused by the use of fossil fuels, adds substantially to our woes. Rainfall now comes down much harder, but for considerably shorter periods, severely damaging crops. Dry seasons are becoming hotter and longer, making the land even less fertile. Overgrazing has also substantially contributed to land infertility, today striking around 70% of families. Nigeria, of my childhood memories, with its rich and vibrant natural beauty, is sadly disappearing. This isn't just because of Shell, due to the collective impact of humans worldwide. Despite Nigeria housing 2.6% of the world's population, our global contribution to emissions was just a mere 0.26%, yet we are facing some of the most severe effects of climate change. This situation is unjust. We are suffering greatly because of the actions of others. It's a global issue that demands immediate and decisive action.
As you have proven, Shell Oil for 88 years straight continues to negatively affect the Nigerian ecosystem. But what about the other oil industries like Chevron, ExxonMobil, and Total Energies?
It is tough to say if other companies are better or worse than Shell. What's clear is that oil spills are a common disaster across the industry, causing massive environmental damage regardless of the corporation. The process of drilling itself harms the land too. Beyond individual incidents, the broader issue is our reliance on fossil fuels. This reliance is a crucial driver of climate change and our planet's most formidable foe. These acts of ecocide, humanity's assault on nature, we must understand the Earth. We must understand harming the Earth means harming ourselves. Every spill and every drilling operation contributes to a cycle of destruction that ultimately affects us all. It is a cycle we must strive to break for our survival and our own planet's health.
And now I'm going to be asking you a question.
Hello, my name is Fatima and I'm representing for Sloan and for the koalas.
Koalas' food source is being taken from them. The eucalyptus trees keep them hydrated and alive. Other than koalas, though, how are other animals impacted by the diminishing eucalyptus tree population?
As I said about earlier, how koalas eat a lot of the eucalyptus tree leaves. On top of that, the brush-tailed possums, the common ring-tailed possums, and the great gliders also eat the eucalyptus leaves, as they are a huge part to their diet. For the most important reason, though, is the hydration. The hydration in Australia is very important because of the intense heat. So not only are all of these animals losing their main source of food, but also becoming very dehydrated.
Thank you.
We will now cross-examine. In the light of Nigeria's 2021 Climate Act, in which they demonstrate that they will continue to improve in the future, and their indigenous communities having disclosed that they have been practicing innovative measures for climate change adaptation for decades, meaning they have a minimal carbon footprint and are practicing measures that show people have a high capacity for resilience. Do you believe that the indigenous people of Nigeria should be included in the prosecution's charge of humanity?
I don't know the answer.
Thank you.
This is my favorite. We now call the prosecution now call polar bears to the stand.
My name is Stephanie. I'm a polar bear expert. My job is to represent the polar bears that have already been impacted by climate change caused by humans. We have the responsibility to protect the environment and prevent climate change from getting worse. Climate change has already destroyed the habitats of polar bears. More and more melted ice appear in the polar region. Polar bears can't stand on the ice to get food like seals. It caused a lot of polar bears to starve to death and lowered their fertility rate. Beginning in the 18th century, trappers worldwide hunt on a large scale. The number of polar bears began to decrease. In recent years, increased extreme climate like fire caused by humans are the phenomena of climate change. Higher temperatures are the main reason that cause climate change to accelerate. For example, burning fossil fuels will make a lot of smoke. It will affect the habitats of polar bears and make air pollution worse. Urbanization makes the number of cars increase greatly. In 2023, about 1.474 billion cars were produced in the world. Polar bears were already listed as written and then under the U.S. Endangered Species Act in May 2008. This is a map of the population of polar bears in Canada. The population of polar bears are about half what it was in the 1980s. The climate in Canada becomes warmer and drier. In summer, the number of fires increased significantly. By early September 2023, 63,700 square miles have burned. Smoke from fires affect the air quality and increase the rate of climate change. Polar bears, as endangered species, need to be protected by humans. They have an important role in the food chain and the marine environment. Protecting nature is also our responsibility. Humans have the ability to protect the environment and prevent climate change from getting worse. But for some reason, the polar bears are disappearing.
Thank you. And as you said, polar bears numbers are rapidly changing. In what ways does the extinction of polar bears affect human society?
Polar bear is the keystone species, which means polar bear is the species that hold the ecosystem together in the Arctic. Polar bears are at the top of the food chain. So if polar bear becomes extinct, the number of your prey, sea seals, will explode. The explosion of sea seals population will affect the number of their prey too. The huge change of the species will damage the local environment, which will increase the rate of climate change and reduce the food source for humans. Also, polar bears have been an important part of the cultures and economies of Arctic people, so I don't think humans can bear the risk of losing polar bears.
As we know from the reintroduction of wolves, an apex predator, to Yellowstone National Park, apex predators dramatically change the entire ecosystem. So removing polar bears, another apex predator, can have larger impacts beyond just themselves. Can you give a few examples of how humans contribute to the decline of polar bears on an everyday basis?
Humans contribute to the decline of polar bear populations in several ways every day. One major factor is that humans burn oil to generate energy and electricity. It forces a lot of melted ice to appear in the polar regions. Polar bears hunting and breeding will be affected by this. Also, humans use cars every day. A lot of cars' exhaust will pollute the air. It will destroy polar bears' immune systems and reduce their reproduction. On the other hand, extreme climates like droughts and fires will cause temperatures to rise. These climates will greatly affect the lives of polar bears. In recent years, tourism in the Arctic has been growing. It also disturbs the habitats of polar bears.
Thank you.
We'd like to call for time.
Each side has 4 minutes of flex time to use to counteract the argument.
Can we talk during the We should go and talk really loud so they can't.
3.5 minutes left.
Thank you.
Order.
Yeah.
Three minutes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we let her stop 1 second. There have been recent polls conducted across the United States and various other countries that say that they wish to mitigate climate change. These polls show that the majority of citizens do not condone climate change and go as far as to say corporations are doing too little to mitigate climate change. How can we claim that these people condone climate change and are guilty of the prosecution's charge?
Well, first, I'm happy that there's someone that would like to change for climate change. And that's what we want all the people to do. And I hope that more people can do that.
So you're saying that humanity and their relationship with the environment is augmenting for better?
Well, I'm happy that they're changing, but they're still guilty for the climate change. They're just realizing their mistake and they're.
But if the majority of emissions are coming from really large companies, how are like the average civilians complicit in like the negative effects of climate change that polar bears are experiencing?
Well, I mean, everyone are driving and living in the city. As long as we're still like living here, we're used to be the place that animals are living in.
And who is in charge of setting up the systems that create that fossil fuel? Do you think that every single human is like walking into their daily life and saying, oh, I wish to produce fossil fuels, or is that just the system they live under where they have to comply with that?
Well,
thank you.
The witness now call the Great Barrier Reef to the stand.
The Great Barrier Reef in Australia is known for its beauty, 400 kinds of coral, and 1,500 species of fish. My name is Addie, and I represent the Great Barrier Reef, witnessing the relentless assault inflicted upon it by the consequences of human-induced climate change. I'm a biologist and climate scientist specializing in coral reefs. Growing up in Australia, I've always loved being in the ocean, but the Great Barrier Reef is being destroyed by climate change. Climate change is harming one of the most beautiful places in the planet, and a place that is important to me and my family. My research shows that there are many terrible things happening to the Great Barrier Reef, such as coral bleaching, habitat changes, ocean acidification, severe weather events, and the emergence of mutating starfish. First, let's talk about why coral is so important. Coral serves as a vital role for us as humans, acting as a natural shield against storms and erosion while providing jobs to locals. It's a lifeline for both the reef and the communities that depend on it. Coral bleaching is a stress response where corals lose their vibrant colors, leaving them pale and vulnerable. Bleaching can leave the coral a lot weaker and more vulnerable to diseases. Bleaching also stunts coral growth and reproduction. Bleaching not only impacts the coral, but also every species that depends on it. Coral bleaching is due to pollution, bad fishing practices, bad chemicals, and burning fossil fuels, which are all human-caused things. Other factors contributing to coral bleaching are rising temperatures, changing storm patterns, the Industrial Revolution, the rising sea levels, which can be attributed to human activities. Climate change amplifies greenhouse gas emissions, warming the planet and impacting sea conditions. This intensifies the stress on coral reefs, creating favorable conditions for bleaching. 91% of the Great Barrier Reef has been affected by coral bleaching. It used to be so beautiful, but now it's almost gone. At this rate, your grandchildren will never be able to see it. It's breaking my heart. It's not only affecting me and my family, but also locals and lots of animals. I'm so sad that this is happening. Locals will lose their jobs and a food source. Overall, humans have been negatively affecting the Great Barrier Reef and all of the animals who live in it. And soon, we won't even have a reef. In conclusion, the Great Barrier Reef is seriously threatened by human-induced climate change, risking not just a beautiful place, but disturbing nature's balance, impacting communities, and endangering resources crucial for our collective well-being.
Major coral bleaching has happened 8 times since 1979. Nobody decided to do anything about it. Can you name a few ways that humans could have prevented the Great Barrier Reef from coral bleaching?
To prevent coral bleaching in the Great Barrier Reef, people could have done things like not taking too many fish from the reef, being careful with building things near the coast, limiting the number of tourists, using clean energy, stop digging for oil near the reef, and making sure factories follow strict rules to protect the environment. We could also look at a place that has successfully been protected, Yellowstone National Park. This should be an example of a successful conservation movement in history. If we focused on stopping climate change and kept a close eye on the reef's health, we could have saved the Great Barrier Reef from damage. But humans are too greedy to have ever done any of these things. And now, too much of the reef is gone.
We've been hearing about the rising temperatures, but can you share an example of how humans are adding to this temperature increase?
Humans are adding to the temperature increase because of the greenhouse gases being let into the air by deforestation or burning fossil fuel for house heat or energy. Greenhouse gases have also been the cause of change of storm routes, helping the sea level rise to form a flood easily, coral bleaching, and the increase of storm destruction. One greenhouse gas in particular that is doing most of the damage is carbon dioxide as it decreases the pH levels in the reef by absorbing it. The temperature change between 1982 and 2020 is by 90%. This has been happening since the late 18th century as the ocean is becoming more acidic and warmer for marine life. We humans have been greedy and neglectful to the reef, as we won't even have a reef before 2050 for the damage we have caused.
Thank you.
The Great Barrier Reef Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to restoring the Great Barrier Reef back to what it used to be through a number of different tools such as coral IVF and cryopreservation. In your testimony, you stated in direct wording that now it's almost gone. It's being the Great Barrier Reef. If we were able to scale this effort, there is a high probability that we would mend the damage done to the reef. Do you believe that this is a better solution to this issue than putting humanity on trial due to the fact that we maintain the innovations and quality of life we have obtained over the last 50 years, while also conserving our planet, which would not be the same if we had not initially burned fossil fuels?
Could you restate that?
The Great Barrier Reef Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to restoring the Great Barrier Reef back to what it used to be through a number of different tools such as coral IVF and cryopreservation. In your testimony, you stated in direct wording that now it's almost gone. It's being the Great Barrier Reef. If we were able to scale this effort, there is a high probability that we could mend the damage done to the reef. Do you believe that this is a better solution to this issue than putting humanity on trial due to the fact that we maintain the innovations and quality of life obtained over the last 50 years while also conserving our planet, which would not be the same without the initial burning of fossil fuels?
I don't think it's a better solution.
Why?
Because they've already done so much damage and they should not get off free for their actions.
So you don't think anything could be done?
Can you rephrase that last bit? I got distracted.
Because they've already done so much damage, they shouldn't just go free for their actions, but for harming this place.
But now they're making leeway. So what's the point of trying humanity for something that's happened in the past when we're now making progress in the future? Thank you. The defense now calls witnesses for the adaptation of humans to climate change to the stand. No.
Hello, I'm Dr. Reed Richards, a professor specializing in climate sciences and anthropology at Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Today I'm here to represent humans' resilience across the ages of climate instability. Our ability to thrive amid climate uncertainties reflects human ingenuity. There are three historical practices I'd like to share with you specifically. One example of human innovation is the indigenous practice of controlled burning in California, halted by ignorant colonizers. This practice involved clearing dry shrubs, leaves, dead plants, termed fuel, to prevent larger fires, sustaining living grounds and forest food sources. Another example of this kind of innovation is zai holes in West Africa. a type of planting pit invented to increase the productivity of grains such as sorghum and millet. This strategy is used predominantly in arid regions as a way to collect water and direct it to crops. Zai holes can increase crop yield by 40% to 600% compared with standard row cropping. Persian wind catchers are another invention and by far one of the most impressive architectural adaptations out there. They're designed to maximize airflow in a building, cooling the lowest level. These levels were either used as living spaces or refrigeration of perishable foods. The reason that I choose to speak about these innovations is because, although not the complete same, there are modern day innovations that serve the same purpose, to adapt and accommodate. One such revelation is CRISPR technology. CRISPR technology is not only more efficient than conventional plant breeding techniques, but seems to be a more realistic solution to the rising hunger cases as a result of climate change. For example, when looking at a certain plant like rice, CRISPR technology could effectively assess its weaknesses and make edits to combat those weaknesses, creating stronger mutated line of rice. The same praise can be given to DAX technology. DAX, or direct air carbon capture and sequestration, uses chemicals known as sorbents to pull CO2 out of the air. These sorbents can work in two ways. The first is absorption, where the CO2 dissolves into the sorbent material. The second is adsorption, where CO2 molecules stick to the surface of the sorbent material. All of these innovative practices highlight humanity's remarkable ability to adapt to climate changes. As we look to the future, modern technologies such as CRISPR and DAX continue this legacy, offering promising solutions to address the impact of climate change.
And as a human race, we show high capacity for adaptation, whether this be versatility within everyday life or in past instances when the human race must adapt at high speeds for survival, like the way Native Americans adapted to outside imperial forces colonizing their land. If you may, Dr. Richards, please introduce the evidence you've procured about human capacity to withstand environmental change and elaborate on how this informs our understanding of how we will operate in the face of climate change moving forward.
Well, I'd like to reference a graph I used in one of my lessons recently, which has been shown on this board. This graph was created to illustrate the inconsistency in climate over thousands of years. I implore the jury to look to the right-hand side of the graph around the 200 mark. This marks the beginning, roughly, of the existence of humans. I find it compelling that, despite having experienced greater temperature increases and decreases than we are now, we managed to survive. This is without modern technology like CRISPR or DAX, or even technologies like the historical ones I referenced. Truthfully, I think we have the potential to adapt more than ever. It is human nature to improve upon ourselves and evolve. For most of our existence, we as humans weren't aware our impact on the earth would have such great consequences. And now that we do, we have our leaders, our greatest mind, our children learning about the best ways to go about mending the damage we've caused. Yes, there will be setbacks and great challenges ahead of us, but it is in the interest of humanity to adapt once again, and I believe wholeheartedly that we will adapt faster and better than we have before.
Thank you.
We'd like to call our 4 minutes. Thank you. We like make small voice so that
You didn't look at the year.
So I was walking down the street and I saw a car.
Order.
Hit a fox.
Order.
3.5 minutes.
Even though humans are adapting right now, how is it not really showing up? I mean, it's a straight, that graph you showed has a gradual line up, but right now it's going straight up. How are we supposed to adapt quick enough for this?
I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. Obviously, like I said, there will be setbacks, but I think that because we have our great minds on this, because we're teaching our children that this is a problem, that even though that there has been a steady incline because of the use of media to bring awareness, I think that honestly we will start to see a decline. And I think that saying that there is no hope doesn't do anything but put the earth in more danger, because we take a pessimistic outlook and decide not to do anything at all.
We are not saying there is no hope in our argument. We are saying that we need to take responsibility for hurting the earth. So by adapting now, that's in the future. It's not happening. I mean, a few examples, it's happening right now, but it's going the earth is dying super quickly, and we need to take our responsibility now. People are just now taking credit for taking care of the earth.
Don't you think it's better late than never that we're making changes right now, even though we haven't in the past? Don't you think?
Okay, but I never said that we shouldn't take it in the future, but we should take responsibility now for killing it. And
by developing these techniques, it is responsibility. And I feel like the outlook that we need to be punished in order to make great changes, I think that's incorrect.
But by punishing everyone, by punishing everyone, we are making a group stand saying we will take care of this now. By punishing all these people, it's uniting all of us.
By punishing everyone, you are halting progress.
No, we are not.
We now call the medical industry and the automotive industry to the stand.
Morning. I'm Dr. Maxwell Steelgrave, CEO and Chief Medical Advisor of Life Sustain Medical Solutions. Today, I am a defense witness representing the medical industry. With 25 years of experience in the field, I graduated from Harvard Medical School in 1992, ranking at the top of my class, and subsequently joined Life Sustain Medical Solutions. During my tenure at the company, I witnessed the apotheosis of medical advancements. I'm here today to vouch for the commendable work undertaken by Life Sustain Medical Solutions in combating, and in some cases remaining neutral, to climate change. We at Life Sustain Medical Solutions take immense pride in proactive measures we've implemented to minimize our carbon footprint. Our technologies, such as CRISPR and biodegradable sutures, contribute to climate mitigation. CRISPR, a groundbreaking technology in the medical field, targets and modifies specific genes within an organism's DNA. This innovation enables us to address genetic disorders like sickle cell disease and cystic fibrosis. Moreover, we utilize CRISPR for climate mitigation by exploring carbon capture and enhancing biofuel production. Our goal is to create a sustainable energy source, ultimately working towards becoming the world's first carbon neutral hospital. One of our most impactful initiatives towards carbon neutrality is using biodegradable sutures in life-saving surgeries. Sutures naturally disintegrate in the body over time, eliminating the need for surgical removal and reducing our hospital's overall carbon output by 15%. However, it is unfortunately necessary to acknowledge that certain life-saving technologies like chemotherapy can have adverse environmental impacts, albeit indispensable in saving human lives. Chemotherapy, its environmental drawbacks, saves over 1 million lives in the U.S. alone, and saved that many. At Life Sustain Medical Solutions, we have a zero-tolerance policy for exacerbating climate change. In fact, we abhor it. We have established a government-funded, research-funded program for sustainable cancer treatment methods. One of our most recent breakthroughs, EcoChemo, is an eco-friendly chemotherapy machine that saves lives and significantly reduces the waste generated during treatment. While it's true that not all medical advancements benefit the climate, they do undoubtedly save countless human lives. We at Life Sustain Medical Solutions not only comply with every climate law imposed by the government, but go above and beyond in our efforts to combat climate change. In closing, I want to express a sincere gratitude to the jury, please consider the information I've shared today. I firmly believe that Life-Sustaining Medical Solutions is innocent of any defamatory accusations the prosecution may allege against us. Thank you for your time and attention.
In your testimony, you state that the medical industry is vital for supporting human life through technologies such as chemotherapy, penicillin, advancements as recent as the biotechnological innovations around the mitigation of the COVID-19 virus. It is definitely clear that the quality of human life would not be the same without these developments. As the medical field developed through the Industrial Revolution, a time where massive economic growth and the implementation of machine manufacturing was initiated, the quality of life for most of humanity increased. To explicitly clarify, in the process of sustaining human life, are the detrimental effects of climate change on the Earth and its inhabitants outweighing the positive impacts of medicine on humanity?
No, literally no. The detrimental effects of climate change on living organisms do not outweigh the positive impacts of medicine on humanity. I would know that the most as a doctor myself. While I do acknowledge that climate change is bad for the planet, I do believe that without intervention in modern medicine, we would not have any of the scientific discoveries related to saving or in reversing climate change. For example, since its discovery in 1942, penicillin has saved an estimated 200 million lives. Many of them were the ancestors of famous climate scientists. So, to, I quote, explicitly clarify, in the process of sustaining human life at the detrimental effects of climate change on living organisms do not outweigh the positive impact of medicine on humanity. For without the modern positive impacts of medicine, we would not even be able to try and reverse climate change.
Thank you. And then moving on to a question for the automotive industry. Since the rise of the automotive industry began in the 1860s and the invention of the Model T in 1908, transportation has become a vital part of what it means to live in the 21st century. Transportation is arguably the key factor in the expansion of the middle class and is responsible for food security in rural regions. The innovation in the automotive industry over the 20th century can be seen as being motivated by personal gain. How would you measure the innovations in this sector? Do you believe we should be where we would be where we are today, with many nations choosing to go completely electric with their cars without past advancements in the industry? Why can't we have personal gain and preservation of the climate? Will this discussion even be relevant in 50 years when we have both?
It is true that the innovations in the automotive industry over the 20th century could be interpreted as personal gain, such as bringing into the economy efficiency, fuel economy, production, sales, and so forth. But since then, we have gained new ways to measure our innovations, specifically in the EV field, such as such as avoiding carbon emissions with new vehicles. If we were to be in the present without having prior advancements in the automotive industry, attempting to go electric, we would either be going in one of two ways. Either we would not be anywhere near as advanced and ready to go to switch towards all electric facilities, or we would have much less trouble converting towards all electric, since there wouldn't be any advances in combustion vehicles and anything using fossil fuels. To gain for oneself, there must be sacrifice and immorality. We cannot have that while we try to preserve the climate, since we limit our reach for the best results, meaning it's either one or the other. Seeing the rate that mankind is going, this discussion will not remain relevant in 50 years.
It's cool that you're making tech to help people, but as the planet gets hotter, it is important to acknowledge that health problems like heat stroke, cardiovascular issues, respiratory ailments, and cerebrovascular diseases becoming more frequent. They say thousands might die each year from the heat by the end of the century. How do the healthcare systems plan on meeting the demands caused by the rising heat?
You know, you do realize I literally just said that there's a bunch of medicines that save 200 million lives, and on the grand scale of things, it does suck for people to die, and I'm like, and yeah, it would be nice if we could get another hospital or two out into places where there's people dying. But on the grand scale of things, it's is one life like worth like 10 lives? Like, I'm sorry, like I would save them. But
Okay, we get it. And then another question. Electric car batteries are made of lithium. Lithium mining takes up
lithium ion. No, the lithium ion
Okay,
batteries.
lithium mining takes up tons of water. Something that where they get the water gets taken from can't lose. 65% of their water is used for mining. Chile's water is used. Chile's Salar de Atacama is used for water. And not only does it use tons of water, but the chemicals also contaminate the water. You say electric cars are the solution, but how do you explain the damage that they cause?
The positives outweigh the negative.
The positives outweigh the negative?
Yes.
It's stripping these people of their water from their mining. How does that outweigh the negative?
Let me give you one example. Did a car company extremely focused in solving climate change avoided production of 14,672,117,796 kilograms of carbon.
And yet they're still taking water. These electric cars aren't the solution.
We would now like to call witnesses for Iceland and Portugal to the stand.
I will also be speaking for Matthias. My name is Beatriz Almeida. I was born in Lisbon, Portugal. After graduating high school, I attended Universidade de Lisboa studying environmental sciences. Once I received my bachelor's degree, I went back to school to study environmental engineering. After I graduated, I worked with the Portuguese government to keep Portugal running completely CO2 emissions free for 1 week. In 2022, I was invited to assist with the design and construction of Mammoth, Climeworks' newest CCS, or carbon capture and storage plant in Hellisheiti, Iceland. The Mammoth plant is the larger version of the Orca CCS plant, which captures CO2 from the air and stores it in rock, where it crystallizes into stone. All of the countries that I call home have gone to great lengths to protect the environment. For instance, Portugal managed to shut down its second largest greenhouse gas emitter, coal, by 2022. Iceland constructed the world's first ever CCS plant, and the second is underway. And as of 2021, 60 to 70% of Portugal's energy comes from renewable sources. The first ever CCS plant was a huge success, capturing up to 4,000 tons of CO2 each year. It would make no sense to prosecute Portugal and Iceland for crimes against humanity when taking into consideration their significant efforts to lower CO2 emissions and halt climate change. In this modern world, it is becoming increasingly evident that not only does green energy support the mental and physical health of all living things, it is also more financially beneficial to use renewable energy. During its 1 week-long green energy spree, Portugal actually saw a positive impact on consumers due to a dramatic drop in energy prices. In conclusion, efforts of these countries and many others provide excellent evidence as to why it would make more sense not to prosecute humanity for crimes against the earth, especially when considering that punishing humanity, we are punishing all of humanity, including countries actively trying to halt climate change. Jury, please take the hard work of these countries into consideration when making your decision. Thank you for listening.
To get to the point where nations can utilize renewable energies for an entire week, there had to be years of development where fossil fuel-based technologies were utilized to synthesize new designs. These energy sources go on to do momentous things, such as carry an entire nation on its back for a week. Would Portugal as a nation have been able to withstand the withdrawal from carbon-based energy sources without the number of innovations in the energy and technology sectors and the advancements those sectors have made since we begun to see the legitimate repercussions of climate change?
Portugal would likely not have been able to survive the switch from carbon-based energy sources to renewable energy sources without modern innovations like solar panels and wind turbines brought by fossil fuels. Stormy weather in Portugal's coast was a large part of the reason that the plan to run emissions-free worked. During the 6-day period, Portugal ran off exclusively wind, solar, and hydropower. Without these innovations, Portugal would have had nothing to rely on to provide power. This also goes for the steep drop in Portuguese fossil fuel use in 2023. Wind turbines scattered across Portugal, concentrated in north and northeast districts like Viseu and Coimbra, where most of the wind capacity is located, harnessed wind from the storms to provide power to 25% of Portugal's energy in 2023. In the northern areas of Portugal, hydroelectric power stations use water flow in rivers and oceans to provide 23% of Portugal's energy. As well, solar energy was used to provide 7% of Portugal's energy last year, with the southeastern town of Al Qutim, housing the largest solar plant in the country. In summary, modern advancements in technology have been vital to Portugal's gradual switch from fossil fuels to green energy.
And switching over to Matthias's question on Iceland. Iceland's construction of carbon capture and storage plants is a true marvel at what humanity can do when given the opportunity to innovate. Do you believe that Iceland's carbon capture plants such as Orca are examples of the prosecution's claims that humanity is ignoring science?
Humans are not ignoring science. The amount of science behind making carbon captures took years of research and engineering. Iceland is very proactive. They have an organization called the Environmental Agency of Iceland. They are in charge of keeping count of the emissions and climate uptake. Being a part of the process and seeing how much has been invested not only in carbon capture, but the whole country of Iceland. Switzerland as well, as they have invested over $3 billion to make eco-friendly energy sources for climate research. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, which is the United Nations body for climate research located in Switzerland. Humans are very invested in the science behind climate change. See, there are many organizations made just for science research on climate change.
Thank you.
So, for each country, both of them have all three countries have two things in common. All of them are facing temperature increase, and we already know that it's caused by human ignorance. And then the second is that they all have good economies. What about the countries who can't afford carbon capturing, a process spent by $275 trillion that will by 2050, or $9.2 trillion per year?
It's true that countries with a better economy are more able to take action against climate change, which is why there are movements to try to get countries with a better economy to support poorer countries in their attempts to take over climate change.
What movements?
I mean, not movements, but like...
You said movements, what movements?
I misworded. There are no specific movements, but there are people.
Oh, and is she allowed to speak? Oh, okay.
United Nations, for example, of one of these.
And this is also you missed my part about the long process. It's been taking 24 years for Iceland to actually complete what they thought. How are you expecting all these other countries to come along with that?
We would rather they just not start at all.
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't have started. I'm saying, what are the other countries who haven't even started yet?
Well,
by putting all these people on trial, by putting all these people on trial, we are able to tell everyone that we need to do this now. It's not a problem that we can just wait for.
Yes, but what is the good that you do by putting countries that are already doing a lot to fight against climate change on trial?
But the only reason they're fighting against climate change is because that the problems they caused in the beginning, they need to be put under.
They're already doing what they can to undo their damage.
Well, okay, I'm just kidding.
We would now like to invite witnesses for Bhutan to the stage.
Hi, my name is Namgi Chulin. I'm from Bhutan and we are innocent. When I was younger, my grandfather told me about how the climate is changing, and if we don't do something about it, the natural disasters that have already happened will be worse in the future. He told me stories about his experience with the glacial lake outburst flood in 1944 and the 1960 6.59 magnitude earthquake which destroyed his home. In my own life, I witnessed a flood, which made me aware of the disruption that a natural calamity could cause, and I am now afraid that events like this will not only be more likely, but also frequent because of climate change. I currently work as the climate solution strategist at the Bhutan Ecological Society. I also founded the Global Schaefer's Thimphu Hub. The Bhutan Ecological Society goal is to create functional physical environments that provide for human needs while ensuring the integrity of ecosystems. Bhutan is a carbon-negative country, meaning that we absorb more carbon than we emit. As an organization, we work on maintaining our forests, which currently take about 71% of the land in our country, and also strive to make our country energy efficient. Bhutan has prioritized environmental conservation since 2009. Our sustainable socio-economic development has led to extremely high rates of happiness in the country. Currently, about 4,000 families in Bhutan are off the power grid, and we are planning to get everyone access to renewable energy in the next 5 years as part of our Leave No Man Behind approach to climate change. As a country, we see our environments as our biggest priority. Visitors have to pay $200 for sustainable development fees every day. The travel industry worries that the fee, meant to help preserve our environment, will eliminate tourist traffic, but to us, sustained environmental protection outweighs economic concerns. In 2015, we absorbed 3 times as much carbon as we emitted, and currently we absorb 4 times as much as we emit. By the year 2030, we are hoping to reach zero waste and no greenhouse gas emissions in our country. We've put into action many rules to reduce our climate change contributions. Some of the rules are: a ban has been placed on all log exports. The country's constitution now states that 60% of the country's total land area must remain under forest cover at all times. We must use hydroelectric power generated by Bhutan's many rivers instead of less environmentally friendly fossil fuels. We also supply free electricity to rural farmers. Bhutan has even limited many TV and internet services since 1999 for energy conservation. In conclusion, Bhutan is carbon negative and, like many other countries, very minimally contributes to climate change. Right now, Bhutan generates very little waste, and by the year 2030, they'll generate no greenhouse gases or waste and will be using completely sustainable energy. That's why I think not all countries should be punished.
Throughout Bhutan's history, the nation has experienced calamities that have left the nation in ruins. Stretching back as far as the 1714 Bhutan earthquake, a high fatality cataclysm, and as recently as July 2023, when 7 civilians were killed during flash floods, demonstrate that the nation has a high threshold for resistance against climate change, even when it's not self-induced by the nation. A nation, I might add, that ranks 178th in GDP, which directly counteracts the point that the prosecution made earlier, stating that a country must have a high GDP to be able to counteract climate change. The prosecution claims that the entirety of humanity is guilty of crimes against the earth. Given that the people of Bhutan contribute to a carbon-negative society, do you believe these people are guilty of these claims from the prosecution? If we justify punishing these people, can we say that they are already punished enough by the climate destruction mentioned previously?
I believe that the people of Bhutan have been punished more than enough. They're just a small country and there's little to no carbon emission. Yet their agriculture and homes are still damaged by floods and landslides. I believe that the Bhutanese people are not guilty for the prosecution's crimes against humanity. Bhutan is doing their job in reducing their carbon footprint by using electricity and solar energy. They also banned log exports. The majority of the contribution to greenhouse gases are from the bigger countries like US and China, which they aren't doing much to stop it. Therefore, we should not blame the small contributors like Bhutan and focus more on the bigger contributors.
And moving to Kai, the organization you and your comrades belong to, the Global Shapers Thimphu Hub, is an organization founded on the basis of youth advocacy for environmental issues. This clarifies that not only is the Bhutanese government carbon negative, but they are cultivating a generation of environmental activists for greater global good. Based on your knowledge, do you believe that the youth advocates and the nation of Bhutan at large should be included in the prosecution's claim that all human societies are harming the earth?
I believe that none of Bhutan should be included in this charge. Bhutan does not contribute to climate change, and we are doing everything in our power not to contribute. The youth involved in the Global Shapers Thimphu Hub should not be included in this charge either. The overarching climate mission of the Thimphu Hub involves the curation and the distribution of climate-related information. We are achieving this by enhancing and utilizing the initiatives, research, and data from government and NGO partners. Our goal is to promote climate literacy and encourage action among young Bhutanese individuals aged 15 to 24. Our foundation is only trying to reduce climate change and create young activists. The youth in our foundation are representation and proof of how we are making progress towards a better and more sustainable future.
Thank you.
Can we have our time? Do you not want to see the big powers like US and China being put under prosecution? By doing this, that's what we're trying to do. So do you not want to see that happen?
We we think that obviously there's change needs to happen in these bigger countries, but we don't think that the solution of this would be to punish them. There's other ways that we can make this happen because there's other countries like Bhutan that aren't contributing, that if we were to punish them, it wouldn't be fair or it's not helping the cause. Like punishing countries that aren't contributing is giving a bad effect in the long run. And there's
or is it helping the bigger countries realize what they need to do? Is that what's happening?
Yes,
Thank you.
They should be allowed to that, and they have.
You guys did that to us earlier. You walked away.
We don't know.
They said we don't know, and I walked away.
That's not Berkeley's comments not here.
Oh, okay.
Judge, what do you call?
Return.
Hi, I'm Maya. From what we've learned in the trial, we have learned many things. But we as a species have learned this. We have destroyed our environment on purpose to make a buck and made the conscious choice to ignore science. If we don't change something, we're not going to survive. As a jury, you've been urged to listen. Please consider the evidence and everything involved. In short, what will be more beneficial to you, a dead Earth or a living one? Thank you for your time. But I want to go on. Just as Ren asked the witnesses, I will ask you some questions. Polar bears are moving out of their habitat because of whom? Barrier reefs are bleached and losing their color because of whom? Koalas are starved and are dehydrated because of whom? Iguanas are shrinking in size because of whom? Galapagos penguins are swimming in oil because of whom? Lastly, Nigerians in Nigeria died in 2003 protesting because of whom? There's more at stake than just what's around us. We as a species are also at stake because of ourselves. Everyone in this room is harmed because of the actions we as a species have collectively taken. Everything ties back to human action done with knowledge and greed for the climate change. The defense is trying to justify human actions and ignoring the larger powers by saying that we can't fault the many for the actions of the few. They rationalize that these pollutants are necessary for it, like healthcare and auto industries, and that countries are doing things to stop it. Allow me to respond. In the case of cars, who put in the system? Which species made the system in cars? A system that we know has involved illegally dumping oil into the water, like in Argentina. Cars don't work unless there are gas stations and charging ports everywhere. Oil, as we've established, has been current habitats across the globe. Also, on the point of electric cars, there is lithium in it. And the automotive to make an electric car takes 3,132 pounds per electric car per year. And there's lithium in the batteries. For every 1 ton of lithium, there are 15 tons of CO2 released. And currently, there are 1,950,000 tons of lithium being imported per year. We can't ignore that. And we need to hold ourselves accountable, not punish, but just recognize we're at fault. As they learned, cars aren't the only industry wreaking havoc. We have agriculture, fashion, luxury items, the little thing we call phones. In the case of healthcare, I'm not saying we should shut down all the hospitals. We need them. But if we do shut them all down, we aren't making a dent into our things, or at least a sizable one that's worth the time and effort to shut down all the hospitals, which I don't think we should do. And also to do those eco-friendly ones, CRISPR Health costs $2 million per year, plus $2 million per patient to enact. and chemotherapy can cost $1,000 to $12,000 to do. Hospitals aren't ranking the top 10 in terms of plastic pollution. They're Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Nestle. Human beings are responsible for the harm we're causing the planet. We have been consciously aware of the harm for years. In 1938, steam engineer Callender managed to find out fossil fuels were the cause of global warming. ExxonMobil, another oil company, predicted climate change, even surpassing those of some academic and governmental scientists in the 1970s, according to Harvard. Why did they total 110 million tons of carbon dioxide in 2022? Companies know what they're doing. Why hasn't anything changed? In 21st century, we all have access to the internet, especially those who can make the biggest change. It's a conscious choice for people to turn a blind eye to not change. The people who control everything are choosing to set the crisis aside. That's because they care about their purse over the planet. But you, the jury, you care about the planet. Only we humans can hold ourselves accountable. I want you to make a stand to hold us accountable. Be honest with yourself. You may not be guilty. As a collective and as a human race, we are. Shells like Coca-Cola, companies like Shells or Coca-Cola don't care about the earth. We live on this earth. We have the responsibility of protecting our home. We are a team. Why we aren't leaving anytime soon? Can we trust them to care about ourselves if they don't care about their home? You can choose to make us live in the long term, but it requires work. But we can, according to Pleakley from Lilo and Stitch, the next step should be educating yourself. Because ignorance won't solve everything. I have one final question for you. Is ignorance bliss or is ignorance eradication? It's in your hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurors, honorable judge, everyone, good morning. I hope it's been an exciting and significant moment as we approach the end of this trial. This trial carries immense weight, as it not only takes us down a path of self-reflection, but also casts a long shadow over the future of humanity. If we fail to address or approach a response in this trial, we may find ourselves suppressed with a sense of guilt and responsibility that we have not taken sufficient actions to combat for our stance. The prosecution has presented interesting arguments about the impacts of climate change, like the Galapagos, polar bears, the Great Barrier Reef, koalas, and Nigeria. We can acknowledge these challenges and the effect they carry. However, it is crucial to understand, acknowledge, the recognition of these issues is the first step towards fixing them. Our defense is not a denial of these issues, but a strong believer for proactive and innovative solutions. The defense team has strived to present narratives that are accountable and progressive. While acknowledging that we are only students, we hold a significant dedication to forge a brighter, solution-focused future. We live in an era where social media is quite universal, where stories of climate change have been tilted towards exaggeration, fostering a mindset dominated by fear and anxiety, rather than hope. According to Yale Education and various newspapers, our generation and those to come believe that Earth will eventually be destroyed. Our planet is on a irreversible path to destruction, which has overshadowed the optimism that once inspired us. Our aim today is to shift that perspective. To evidently recognize a sense of hope and commitment within our community, a commitment to work collectively for a carbon-neutral future. Let us revisit some key points throughout this trial. Testimony from Kai B of the Global Shapers Timbu Hub highlighted Bhutan's notable efforts in nurturing a generation of environmental activists for global goods. Evidence from Dr. Richards emphasized our historical resilience to climate extremes, even in the absence of modern history, modern technology. Dr. Mack's insights into medicine and technological progress, which were initiated around the 1970s, underscores our capacity to counteract carbon emission though we recognize our past contributions to environmental harm. Contributions from Beatrice and Matthias brought attention to technological advancements in countries like Iceland and Portugal, which started multiple rigorous national programs since the late 20th century, and Portugal, by law, must achieve a 55% emission reduction by the 2030s compared with 2005 levels, underlining our ongoing battle against climate change. In recognizing our historical journey from the Columbian Exchange to present, a significant time period with a significant increase in trade and food production around the globe. Establishing from cultivating vegetables to industrialized production is a significant change that has led to the enriched and prosperous community we live in nowadays. It has become clear that our past is not just to acknowledge the stories of environmental impacts, but also serve as a pivotal moment to self-reflection, improvement, and action, aimed at improving each individual's life living standards. I aspire not to just focus on what has been done in the past, but also contribute positively and leave a footprint in this world. This desire to effect change, to pursue and surpass our fullest potential, is the fundamental of our defense. In conclusion, it is not only about the past, it is a voice for change, inspiring each of us to become the best version of ourselves, dedicated to healing and protecting our planet. Thank you.
We now ask that each member of the jury shares their country's perspective on the argument and evidence presented. As a representative of Honduras, my opinion going into the trial was the noticeable disasters that have been affecting and hurting my country have gone way too far and need to be stopped. After hearing the arguments presented, I'm taking under consideration the fact that certain technologies such as locomotives for travel, life-saving medical procedures, and medications are helping humanity positively. I'm just not sure how quickly.
As a representative of Greenland, my opinion going into the trial was that the Inuit are suffering because of the depletion of resources due to climate change. After hearing the arguments presented, I'm considering how humans are working to counteract climate change with technology like electric vehicles and carbon capture technology. So not all humans are responsible for climate change. However, I am not sure if change is being made fast enough and how expensive these technologies can be for countries who may not be able to afford them.
Hi, I'm Mitch, and I'm a representative of the country of Argentina. My perspective going into the trial was that people should not be held accountable for this issue because the benefits outweigh the bad, and that it's just a part of nature. The benefits outweigh the bad. But however, after hearing the arguments presented, I have it's given me the thought that in like 50 years, we have made enough progress with these things that they're going to do in time and like be able to like do it in time.
As a representative of Australia, my opinion going into the trial was that climate change has affected both the planet and the animals living on land and in the oceans, and that there are many different ways that humans can help solve climate change. After hearing the arguments presented, I am considering the fact that some places like Bhutan have been able to limit their carbon footprint to 0 or close to 0%, but that also we have known about climate change for quite some time, and we could have started sooner, and we should have. But even now, when we know more about it, we still don't try that much. There are places that do, but not the bigger contributors like America and China. And also, there has been so much damage done, like to the Great Barrier Reef. 91% of the coral has started coral bleaching, and that is close to being irreversible. So much that,
As a representative of the Dominican Republic, my opinion going into the trial was that we can make a change in a span of a small time. Hearing the compelling arguments from the defendants and the prosecution, I found that there is not much time that we might have, and that we can just do what we can at the moment. And however, we have a bunch of hospital and talking about chemo and all of the different medication that has been found. How do we know that we're going to be able to use it in a long time if we're not going to have the earth in very much? So, yeah.
As the representative for Russia, my opinion going into the trial was that climate change is a very important issue and should be dealt with as soon as possible. After hearing the arguments from both sides, I'm considering the various oil spills in Nigeria, similar to my own country, the Arctic ice melting, similar to my own country, and how CRISPR is an interesting solution for many issues caused by climate change, and yet is extremely expensive, so might not be able to be done by less economically profitable countries.
As a representative of India, my opinion going into the trial was that the planet should be saved by humans, the only people who are able and have knowledge of how to help and have a change. After hearing the arguments presented, I'm considering that future generations are going to suffer from the climate change if humans don't do something now. Globally, contributions should happen now if humans want to survive, and not just humans, but animals too. As a representative of Ecuador, my perspective going to the trial was that the changing climate increase natural disasters that affect humans are threatening Ecuador's biodiversity, and these conditions are ultimately man-made. After the arguments presented, I am considering that there are many places who are currently working towards being carbon neutral, like Portugal, Iceland, and Bhutan, who has already achieved. Humans survive because of science and the ability to adapt, and that not all humanity should be punished for climate extremism. But though these reforms are taking place, they may not be quick enough for, and especially for economical countries who are not as economically advanced as China and America, it may take them longer.
As a representative of the Netherlands, my opinion going into this trial is that climate change was getting out of our hands and it could have been previously reversible. After hearing the arguments presented, I've got a renewed hope for the world and hope that we can all work together to solve this issue.
As a representative of China, my opinion of going into the trial about the environmental issues have become increasingly critical, highlighting the significant effect of the human activities on the environment. After hearing the arguments presented, I'm considering humans play an important role in climate change. Plastic and oil pollution caused by humans is serious, and humanity is working hard to change environmental pollution.
As a representative of Indonesia, my opinion going into the trial is that humans are at fault for climate crises, like the fires and deforestation in Indonesia. After hearing the arguments presented, I'm considering the human adaptations that can benefit humans, like treatments for illnesses and cars for transportation. But there are also oil spills in Nigeria that cause environmental damage, and high temperatures causing ice melts that make polar bears endangered, which changes how other animals part of the food chain come to survive with limited food.
As a representative of Greece, my opinion going into the trial was that regardless of who is at fault for climate change, it is humanity's responsibility to solve it. After hearing the arguments presented, I'm considering technical advancements that help with climate change, mutated starfish, and temperature changes due to greenhouse gases.
Members of the jury, we will now take the next 7 minutes to discuss and deliberate.
Be loud, y'all.
Hi.
So, what does everyone think? We're all feeling not to
Please stay seated. Oh my goodness, it's so important, even though the oceans are becoming extremely
For real. Like, so they say sex. Why not? So why not? Yeah.
What are you
Yeah. Why?
And then
Sometimes, like, take a course, we don't have to. We don't, it doesn't affect every country the same.
I just we just country that was like talking about how zero emission carbon saying that they should be in the trial. How is there gonna be a change if not everybody is kind of somebody like no person gets to let out and feel like how come they get out but you must make a change. It's just because they got exactly I started thinking about it before. Now that it's brought up, they actually have something to work.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like with the green line, that's not, they're only doing it now because they weren't doing it before.
Also, like, they're saying, like, yeah, we do all that stuff, we're gonna make it better, but it's still, it's like, we're just gonna do it, no, but I'm gonna clean it up. But when? Yeah,
Like, it's not being perfect, you're right. Put it back together.
And then trying to make it change now, saying that the trial should be a thing. I mean, it's been known for a long time, and now that we're putting in these trials, we're trying to think about it. So it's just bringing awareness so that we can do something about it. And I'm sure that it's not the first time that some people get conscious about They also talk about how the automobile create opportunities for data, but what is the automobile?
Girls, what they do. They're trying to get his.
So it's just, yeah.
Members of the jury, we will now silently submit our votes for the case People versus Planet, guilty or not guilty.
Make sure to write your country name on your card. Can we write our names like oh.
Is there an I?
We can have
Immediately.
If we get a tie. If we win, we should get like to put people in handcuffs. That's what I'm saying. Like I think it'd be so fun. So you're part of our hero.
In a unanimous vote, the jury finds the defendants guilty.
This concludes the proceedings. The court is now in recess.
Before you go anywhere, can we give a huge round of applause to the students? Laurel and I are unanimous in just our awe of what just happened right now. Like every single one of you are amazing, beyond our expectations, and I think our expectations were really high. So I'm just so proud of all of you and the work you put in, and just your, your planning, but also your on the spot, quick thinking. Do you want to say anything?
No, you killed it.
You killed it. Totally killed it. So now is the time we are going to transition. I think, Mike, I don't even know what time it is.
Students are going to head back a little bit before 12. You have time, about 20 minutes to get food, eat, and the first round will set up for a 12:30 start for the first presentations of learning, and that'll be 40 minutes, and then at 1:15 the next student will go. And parents.
That was really well done.